Hey guys, it's Hector here, and since I run this American channel, I know a lot of people will probably expect me to comment on that whole Orlando shooting, which happened about a week ago by now. And I just kind of wanted to wait until more information was known because just a lot of stuff was thrown around and they didn't really fully know what was going on. So basically, this guy went to a gay nightclub in Florida and shot it up with this, what we would call an assault rifle. Killed about 50 people, wounded about another 50 people. All the media and everybody is saying this is like the biggest mass shooting in United States history. I told some people that and they're like, no, that can't be, but I think that's just because we're used to so many mass shootings in the United States. And by the way, a mass shooting in the United States, according to the FBI, is when 4 or more people are shot and killed. So there's a number of mass shootings every single year in the United States. But some people are saying, well, even if you use that whole system, you can say that like 100 years ago when like the government or some people just shot up a bunch of Native Americans in the United States, that counted as the biggest mass shooting. But no, not really, I guess, because Native Americans weren't even considered American citizens, even though they were natives, until like, about 100 years ago or less than 100 years ago? I forgot the exact date, but still. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts and all that stuff. And so they're saying this guy who shot up the nightclub, he was Muslim and came from a very religious family, but he also might have been secretly gay, but he did have a wife. But they were saying maybe he was so mixed up and frustrated inside from being overly religious and from, people saying gays are bad and stuff, because of course the United States is still kind of anti-gay, even though we had to force we didn't have to force it. The Supreme Court forced everybody to say gay marriage is legal across the entire country now. People are still pretty anti-gay, including Florida. Florida is one of the craziest racist states in the entire United States. Most people say, oh, if some crazy thing happened, it probably happened in Florida, right? Well, also, before he shot up the nightclub, supposedly he called up 911, which is, the emergency hotline. In case you're from outside the country, you don't know what 911 is. You call 911, emergency hotline, and then get police, firemen, whoever to come. He called it up, and he said he pledged his allegiance to ISIS, supposedly. So he wasn't in ISIS, he wasn't part of ISIS, he was just like a sympathizer, and so people are calling him a terrorist. And of course, he is a terrorist, but it is just kind of effed up how people a lot of times want to call any type of Muslim person a terrorist, but when a white person does a mass shooting, they just say he's crazy, he's a loner. And even this older white man shot up an abortion clinic not even a year ago, like a couple months ago. He said he did it for God and for, the dead children, basically. But he wasn't even, he was caught alive. He wasn't killed. He said all this stuff in court, and they said, well, he's too crazy to go to prison, so we're just going to put him into some mental health ward or something. So he was just a crazy individual, even though, if a Muslim person said, I did this for God and I had to shoot up these people, then he's just automatically a terrorist. So yeah, that's kind of BS right there. And so, because of all this stuff, the whole gun debate is talked about again, whether or not we should ban certain guns or ban all guns and all that stuff like that. People from within the United States are talking about it. People from outside the United States are talking about it who don't really understand how things work inside the United States. So actually, a lot of politicians do not want to vote on gun stuff. They don't even want to participate in a vote. They do not want to actually, ban things, because a lot of times the gun companies, gun manufacturers, and the NRA and stuff give so much money to politicians in their election campaigns, and if they go against these companies, then they'll just funnel the money into somebody who's running against them during the next election process. And that's totally illegal because it's just, earning money, basically, campaigning, funding, and all that. And then they might defeat that person by putting out a bunch of bad ads using the money that they raised. And so a lot of people do not want to vote on that stuff, but recently the Democrats in Congress stood up and said, we're not going to vote on shit until we actually get to vote on some sort of gun regulation now. And so they've been doing what we call a filibuster, saying that they're not going to vote on anything until they do this. Republicans say it's disgraceful and stuff and whatever. And so, also, real quick, so this nightclub was a gay nightclub. And as I said, people have still been really against gays, including the politicians in Florida. And I believe it was the governor. No, well, yeah, the governor talked on the news, but actually it wasn't the governor that I was thinking about right now. It was some woman who was trying to argue against gay marriage, saying it's going to cause serious harm to everybody in the nation. And so she was on the news talking about that, and the news dude was questioning her because the news dude was gay himself. His name was Anderson Cooper. I'm sure most people know him. He's on CNN. And she was like, well, I'm just trying to uphold the Constitution that the voters voted for. The state Constitution, not the United States Constitution, not the federal Constitution, just Florida's Constitution. And everybody's like, well, if it's something that you feel is wrong, you can still stand up against it. You don't have to go to court to vote for it. But, you know, it's just they secretly hate gays, basically. Or either that, or that they're just trying to go for their constituents, you know, the people that they're supporting, or the people that are supporting them, who are electing them. They're going for all those bigoted people and saying, yeah, I hate gays, you can vote for me. And so a lot of people are saying, well, our prayers are with those gay people who got killed, which is also insulting because a lot of religious people are actively against gay people, and they go out and say, you know, being gay is an abomination and you should be put to death. Both Christians and Muslim people, clerics and, you know, pastors and all that stuff have come out after this mass shooting and said, great job, that's the way of our religion, which is pretty fucked up, but that happens. I'm not saying everybody in all religions are like that, but religion is like that. That's why I don't follow religion, because it's fucked up and it's bullshit. And so I think it is kind of insulting to say our prayers are with you. And also, on the news, they showed huge lines of people going in to donate blood to help these individuals who are seriously hurt, which is great, but it also kind of reminds you of another fucked up law that gay people cannot donate blood. I believe some states have changed it to say if you haven't had gay sex within a year, or if it's been over a year, then you can donate blood, but if it's been under a year, then you can't, because of some fucked up laws against gay individuals, because apparently, I think this law was probably made in the 80s when everybody thought all gay people had AIDS and shit. So yeah, more fucked up stuff here in the United States. And so back to the whole gun laws, people have been arguing about it who don't really understand it, and of course, we get guns because of the Second Amendment in the United States Constitution. Remember, an amendment is a change to the Constitution to add or subtract anything. And so people say, well, it's in the Constitution, we can't change it, but it's an amendment, which means we already changed it to add it on. We even added an amendment to ban alcohol, and then we added another amendment to say, no, we're not banning alcohol again. That amendment is void. So yeah, that's one fact right there. And here's the other, I guess you can say this fact, because I'm just going to read the amendment for you. It says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So it doesn't say guns, it says arms, which of course includes guns, and I would assume other weapons, like knives, explosives maybe. So people read this and say, well, it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, but they ignore the first part, which is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Because back then, I don't believe we had an official army. We definitely did not have the police or cops or anything like that. Now that we do, we really do not need militias. We still have militias. And by the way, I looked up the term militia. Apparently Wikipedia has two entries, just militia and militia United States. Because the United States has been arguing and has put up Militia Acts 1903 and a bunch of other things to try and define militia as different things. It's not a whole organization protecting the state. It's actually the reserve militia is defined as every able-bodied man of at least 17 and under 45 years of age who is not a member of the National Guard or Naval Militia. And then another option is former members of the armed forces are also considered part of the unorganized militia. And yeah, so there's a bunch of BS like that. I personally think that this amendment as it is should just cover people like in the army and the police and stuff. But that does not mean that I do want to ban all guns. I believe we should add another amendment to actually do more specificity. So I think we should do an amendment that allows everybody to have guns that are regulated still. So in reality, about 99% of people are for some sort of gun regulation. We have banned automatic weapons, although you can buy this one stock that goes like this and goes inside once you pull the trigger, and then the recoil pushes it back, and then it pretty much makes it full auto. That's legal. I think that should be illegal. Machine guns, like those big light machine guns, those are illegal. Certain explosives, not all explosives, but certain explosives are illegal. And so some people are for certain regulations and bans on weapons. Most people, I would say 99%, depends on the type of weapon, of course. But some people are saying, well, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed, and then they ignore the well-regulated part. And so some people just pick and choose parts of the law. I believe assault rifles and military-grade weapons, as they call them, should be banned because the whole purpose of that is to kill a lot of people in a short amount of time with the best ease. It's for the military. Civilians do not need that sort of power. Just like we can't use race cars on the road because that stuff is illegal. We don't need that kind of power. And they did ban assault rifles for a short amount of time, but they said, hey, that didn't fix the crime rate, and that's true. But I believe the point of banning these type of weapons isn't to fix the crime rate. It should be to fix the mass shooting rate. Because pretty much all mass shootings, not all, but pretty much all mass shootings are done by these types of assault rifles and military grade weapons and stuff like that. But when it comes to the crime rate, most crimes are done with just handguns. I'm not saying we should ban handguns. I'm just saying we should put more regulations on them, like not being able to sell them to private individuals, having a license, having to register it, having to go to, like, pretty much like how when you sell a car to another person, you have to go to the DMV and switch the registration and all that stuff like that. But people are like, registration? No, F that. I do not want to be on some list for the government. Because some people believe the government is just going to come out to get you, and we have the ability to own weapons because if the government gets too powerful, then we can rise up against them and kill them basically, and take over the government, I guess, because it's the right to keep the state free. This is how some people think, but you can't really do that. The army, the navy, well, the military, all in general, will come after you, and so will the police and the SWAT team and all that. Some people in Oregon just tried to take over this small ass building. They got taken over. Some people got shot up and killed. Some people just got arrested. You're not going to fight against the government. And the government has already taken away some of our rights. Like, they wiretap our phones and look at all our metadata online and all that stuff. That is against the Constitution, but nobody has really fought or risen up against that. And so, yeah, it's just a bunch of BS people are talking. And then the people outside the United States are like, well, we've banned guns in the UK and Australia and Japan, and look at that, and everything is great, no mass shootings and stuff like that. And maybe, well, pretty sure if we did happen to ban all guns, mass shooting rate would drop quite a bit, crimes would probably drop somewhat, but you really can't compare the United States with those countries. And I know the UK isn't a country, just bear with me. You can't really compare it with those places because all three of those places are islands. The United States is not an island. We have massive borders across Canada and across Mexico. And Mexico is a pretty crazy place. You know, I got a lot of love for Mexico and got some family from Mexico, but they got some really fucked up cartels, drug cartels. They get drugs up into the United States. They can get weapons up into the United States pretty easily. So, yeah. And I know some people say, well, if you ban guns, it'll take the guns out of the hands of the, law-abiding individuals and only into criminals, which would slightly be true, but also most people who do the mass shootings actually legally get guns. So it still would drop down the mass shooting rate. Probably not the crime rate too much. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, a lot of people who do the mass shootings get the guns legally for a number of reasons. Like, another reason is background checks. Some states, not all states, you have to wait like a long period of time, like 3 days, sometimes even a week, to get your gun, because you got to do background checks and ID checks and all this stuff. Some states you can just go in, do a quick check, and then go out like within 30 minutes to an hour. But the thing about the background checks is there's only a small amount of people working them, and there's 300 million people in the United States, and a ton of them buy weapons. And so I've read and have heard that if they do not clear or even look over the background check within that time limit, then they're automatically approved. The background check gets approved and gets cleared, because that's just how it works. And of course there is this whole terrorist watch list we have heard of. There's of course the no-fly list. If people suspect you, or if the government believes you might be some sort of threat, they might say you cannot fly on airplanes. And there's a whole other list that says you might be a terrorist, we're going to be looking into it. Of course, some innocent people have gone on it, some guilty people have gone on it. But if you are on, I believe if you're on either list, you can still legally purchase a weapon. It will not show up in the background check. So yeah, that's pretty fucked up right there too. So yeah, that's just pretty much all I had to say, I guess. A lot to cover with this whole Orlando shooting and the whole gun control stuff. I've talked about guns before on this channel, and I know I was kind of just all over with the whole Orlando shooting and the whole gay stuff, and then the religion, and then the gun stuff. But yeah, I guess that's all I got to say. Thumbs up this video if you liked it or appreciated it. And you can definitely leave a comment if you have thoughts on this whole subject about gun control, about the whole religion, about the whole Orlando shooting, about gay individuals. And you can also leave a comment if you want me to cover another American subject in the future. I'll check out the comment, try and cover it in a video later on. And you can subscribe to my channel if you want to see those videos later on, if you want to see other American related stuff. And I guess that's it, so see you guys later.